Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello, and welcome back to Homeschool Together. Thank you so much for joining us. And today's all about small things. And I'd like to say a small thank you to that mom who was at our parent partnership who walked up to me and said, "Are you famous?" And I said, "Yes, I am."
She did not say that.
She said something like that. She goes,
she didn't ask for your autograph, Matthew.
I saw the glint in her eye, and she was thinking about. No, she came up to me and I was on my phone being a responsible parent as my youngest was orbiting me, and she goes, "Do you have a YouTube channel?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she goes, "I watch." I said, "Get out of here." I said, "Thank you so much," and everything. And that's a cue to you at home right now to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see my face and hit me up in the wild, wherever you meet me.
That was very funny.
I kid you not. Hopefully she's listening. She walked away and I went right to my phone.
And you're like, holy cow.
Holy SI, SH, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, we're famous. Someone just noticed us.
So it's been funny. We've been talking about this for years.
This was it. This was our moment. I feel like I'm a king. I've got my throne.
Oh my gosh.
I got my hat. I got my staff. I'm like,
it's a throne made out of cardboard.
It's a cardboard
Amazon boxes. No, we've been talking about this for a while. Like some point we were going to run into somebody that we didn't know or who didn't know, like a friend of a friend kind of thing. Who
strangers,
would say,
real strangers.
Yeah, or an actual stranger who would say,
who now has a place in my heart. Yes.
Yeah, wait, are you those people? And it happened. So it only took 4.5 years, but it happened. So that's pretty exciting.
It was my unshaven, ruggedly good looks.
But it's really fun. So yes, that was really cool.
Special thank you. We humble homeschool podcasters, very easy to make us smile.
It is.
Anyway, today we're going to be talking a lot about little things. So much about homeschooling. And when you get into homeschooling, and even us, seasoned professionals, can feel like we make big things. I'm going around the world journey and all these things, and I'm doing this huge curriculum.
It's 60 weeks.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? But we want to talk today a little bit about kind of embracing the small things, these small adventures, small unit studies, one-day things, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. Not losing sight from the creativity. We've talked a lot about, taking time off, not, being, letting yourself burn out and ways to overcome that. And one of the big ways I think it is to put everything down and do something fresh and new, but something short and fun and take advantage of that, the newness.
Right. I mean, all these curriculums that you see out there are, 36 weeks, or even if they're 18 weeks, they're like half a year, or it's a 3 or 4 week unit study. There's times when everything feels kind of overwhelming. Like, wow, everything takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of resources. And, I have to make commitments to what are we going to do? Okay, what's going to be our science for this whole year or whatever? And some of that can be just a lot. Even for us, we have this main Trekking the World thing that we're doing for social studies. And of course, we're doing our reading and our math separately. But we're even struggling to figure out, like, well, we want to do science. We want to go back and do Blossom and Root Science K. And like, when are we going to do that? And, what time do we have? And we feel like we're kind of stealing snippets of time because our week's very busy. Our girls are in lots of extracurriculars. And so it's like, how do we do this? And so I was thinking about, what could you do that was small but mighty, right? Small things that could have big impacts. Is it the situation where you have to say, I need to do a 1 semester science curriculum, or could I do one really cool experiment? And then next week, maybe one other cool thing, do you, when is it okay to not be comprehensive and just say like, this is what I can do right now, but I still want to make this really impactful. I'm not suggesting that you don't have a science curriculum, but I'm just saying when you can't find time for things, you're so busy, you don't know how to infuse a little bit of, I'm just not getting enough music in. How do I do that? Maybe it's like, so the idea of these was like micro adventures, whether you're going somewhere or staying at home. What could you do that was small but powerful?
Well, and the first one we're going to talk a little bit about is kind of the bite-sized exploration. You know, kind of going in the line with what you were saying, you know, that small hands-on activities, you know, making that learning fun, quick, approachable, whatever that might be. Really diving into those kind of little small, whatever, like maybe you get an idea off of, you know, Google or Pinterest or something of that nature, and you can cobble together something and do that fun activity, whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah. This could be the day that you say, we're not going to do anything else. We're going to make a baking soda volcano.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to do today. And your kids are all about it. And it's a little bit of that like permission to take a break from your regularly scheduled programming and say, we're just going to do something fun because I know we're going to really enjoy it. And guess what? They're also going to learn. Just because it's quick doesn't mean that it isn't important.
Well, a good example of that is something we did a couple weeks ago, if you're following us along on YouTube, when we talked about our Japan study. The sushi Play-Doh. I had nothing planned. I was like, I need to do art. I didn't have anything put together. And I was like, sushi Play-Doh. And man, did I get like that has stuck in their mind.
Yeah, they still talk about it.
They still talk about it. And it's just like, these are the little things that you can do to just like bring, you know, sometimes they're going to flop, right? We all have flops all the time.
Isn't it the best when you like prepare a whole thing? You're like, okay,
yes.
This is going to be great. And I've got this all prepped. And then they come down and they're like, huh?
What? No, it's going to be great.
No, really. It's going to be awesome. They're like, for who? So, yeah. And, you know, these could be just something fun you do on a day off. We talked about those like low or no homeschooling days and having, you know, projects that are stashed.
I'll put a link to that podcast below so you can check that out.
And this might dovetail really well with that. It might also be that you use this bite-sized method to kind of more of an unschooly approach. Maybe you fill all of your time with small bite-sized pieces, and that makes up a full curriculum. So it can either be stand-in, break type work, or maybe you put together lots of these little pebbles, and eventually you've got a whole bucket of a whole year. So I think there could be multiple ways to go about learning subjects. It doesn't all have to be big. It could be a 15-minute nature walk that you go on. It could be a science experiment like we're talking about. It could be an art activity. It could be a one-day trip to a museum or,
you know, going with that is that I like the idea that sometimes when we're doing these activities, they may touch multiple subjects.
Yeah.
And that gets into our next point is kind of this cross-disciplinary learning. Going out there and finding some activity that might be tangential to what you might be learning, or maybe something related to it in whatever the activity might be. If you're doing music, maybe you go to a concert or something like that. Like maybe a lot of cities have free, concerts in the park.
Yeah. We've got a community band. We have a swing band. We've got several different kinds of choirs.
Seeing something different. You had a good example here about going on a hike. How many times do we have these areas where we can go that it's a hike, but also it ends in kind of a historical thing? Right. And you can kind of mix that in there. Maybe do a little bit of art while you're out there, or maybe do a little journaling where you're getting all the disciplines together. But it's a fun activity, and because it's a big, it's a big event that you're doing, those type of experiences tend to stick in the brain, and the kids remember that, especially if it like ends at like a tide pool and you're playing. I still remember us going to the San Juan Islands with your friends and going down to those tide pools and
that was amazing.
Picking out little crabs and taking a look at little starfish and touching them and everything. And it's just like, my daughter our youngest still thinks about that all the time.
Yeah, and she was only like 3.5.
She was like 3.5, yeah. And I still see the pictures, and I actually, a lot of times I see those pictures come up on memories and stuff, And I remember that day still. And it was nothing special or anything. It just
No,
ended at this really cool place.
Right. We happened to be staying with friends and they said, hey, the tide's low.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over there for a few minutes? It's about a 5-minute drive. And we were like, okay.
Yeah,
it was just something we kind of squeezed in. It wasn't a big plan. We didn't look up beforehand all the different animals we were going to see and all. We just went down and said, hey, let's take a chance on this. And I think that's the kind of the fun part too about these, micro adventures is without all the preparation and all the cost and all the commitment, you can take a chance on things and sometimes they're going to flop. Yep. And sometimes you're going to go to the reptile museum and find that was awesome. Yeah. And that they learned a ton.
They're going to put the tortoises out in the tortoise garden and you'll get to sit there and watch them bang into each other. Yeah. It's great.
I mean, some friends of ours went to there's a kangaroo farm somewhere.
Yeah, just up the road from us. Yeah.
And they were like, it was the most amazing random thing that they got to do.
Exactly. No, I think it's a great idea. Kind of the next idea would be kind of these creative mini lessons. If you have some type of concept, like you were pointing out earlier, science and engineering kind of is a difficult thing to do there. And you make it a cool idea on how to teach a certain concept and then kind of explore through that. And a good idea here is using Legos to, do some type of challenge.
Oh yeah. Like one of the bridge building challenges. Those are so fun.
And, the best way to do that is just kind of have fun. Bring something into the learning that, tells a story or a challenge. Like, hey, your kid has Bunny, like our youngest, the beloved hallowed Bunny. And she's a cute little bunny and she's been around for 5 years. And
more. She was given to our older daughter when she was a baby. So she's been
you can sit here and say, okay, here's all of our Legos. We have to get across this span. Maybe it's the kitchen table to the counter or something like that. And here's all the Legos we have to do it. And Buddy needs to get across from here to here. Mm-hmm. How are we going to do that? And go ahead and give them the challenge. And all of a sudden, as they're going, you can tell them a little bit, here, you need to have a brace here, or you need to support the weight in this way. And you can start to talk about these principles and maybe you test them and help them along the way. And then maybe there's a new challenge where they have to take that learning and do another type of challenge, and throw that at them and challenge them with things that they identify a lot with. Maybe you have a child is really into Matchbox cars, or you have another child who really loves digging in the dirt and stuff like that. Take advantage of those little things that they're really interested in, and then wrap that into some type of learning, some type of impactful lesson.
Right. Yeah. Our daughters are really into, especially our oldest is really into acting right now. And so we were talking about some different historical subjects and we're like, hey, what if we acted this out? What do you think this would sound like? What would this be like? And you could just see the wheels turning. Okay, well, so it's funny right now she has to do this monologue. And so she has to embody Rapunzel from Tangled.
Yeah. It's a scene right as she gets out of the tower.
Right.
And she's kind of running around manic, oh my gosh, I'm doing this thing. Oh my God. This is gonna be
she's really excited and then she's really upset and worried about how Mother Gothel's going to feel. And so back and forth. So she's practicing this and we're really talking about how is Rapunzel feeling in this? How would you emote this? She's having so much fun with it. So we started, talking about some historical concepts, and we're just we were talking about dinosaur times and stuff. And so I was like, okay, what if you were a dinosaur? How would you feel? What would you do to act this out? And the kids were there was lots of roaring. It was a big thing. But anyway, it's just, take something that they're interested in and find a way that you can make just a short, fun, silly activity that they actually really remember and enjoy.
And I think going with that is, think short. We're thinking small things here, stuff that's short, but
sure.
But even go even shorter than that. Something that I did the other day, driving to, I think it was dance class, and I was like, I don't want to turn on, the Honda's, DVD.
That movie system is a lifesaver.
The movie system's a lifesaver. But I'm like, guys, it's only an 8-minute drive across town. Can we handle this? And they're like, no, Dad, we need the movie. I'm like, okay, fine. We're going to do trivia time. Yeah. Right? Because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm driving down the road. I'm like, I'm doing all this good homeschooling. Hey, look at me. I'm the homeschool super dad. Blah, blah, blah.
Rocking my minivan.
And driving around. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute. Do my children know basic information about the state we live in? Do they know the capital?
Are you preparing them for future Jeopardy?
I had a moment there where I thought maybe I'm under homeschooling my children, and I said,
We all have those moments of doubt. It's okay.
but what I did is I said, okay, we got 5 minutes. I go, okay, we're going to play a game. They love competing against each other. So I used their
super
natural competitiveness against each other. And I started tossing out trivia questions and keeping score. And I was balancing trivia questions based on their knowledge and everything. But I was able to really start to...
But it was basic stuff like, what state do we live in?
Yeah.
Who is our president? Yeah. What town do we live in?
Exactly. And all those little things.
Just all the things, like basic things they should know.
But I was using...
What is your middle name?
And because they were so competitive, I've now done this like the second or third time. It's kind of like my game I play with them now, going to dance class, and I'm able to shove like those important pieces of information. Like, there's always those they call them the man on the street interviews, where they walk up to you, hey, do you know who this person is? And you're like, I don't know who Taylor Swift is. What's Taylor Swift? It's like,
yeah, some random thing that everybody knows.
Yeah,
that's where they ask people that is the Earth the center of the universe, and there's like half of them that be like, yeah,
Yeah, so we're still stuck there. But that type of thing where I'm using this very short period of time, and I'm using their competitiveness, and I'm able to get some learning in, actually. And
you've been able to quiz them about some things we've studied about different countries and stuff.
Exactly.
Which country is known for this biome, and see what they remember.
But taking advantage of that shortness and balancing it with something that I know my kids will enjoy doing, which is kind of that competitive trivia type of thing, has really been something that kind of like illuminated, a new avenue for me to kind of get like those like simple facts that they need to memorize and stuff like that.
And short things are great. And we started doing tell a story one line at a time while we were doing nature walks, because our youngest is not a big nature walker. No. And we're trying to hike more and stuff. And so we thought, okay, well, we'll tell a story. And the last story that we did was all ancient Egypt. So it was like, there was some learning going on there because our older daughter remembers more. So she's, inputting more facts. Our younger daughter keeps taking it off into mummies that walk around. But anyways, it was really fun. And by the time we were done with this story, we had hiked quite a ways. And our younger daughter didn't complain, didn't know to complain. It was really fun and really great. So there can be all kinds of different ways you can multitask with micro adventures.
Kind of going along with that same kind of idea that you're talking about, and boosting that curiosity and exploration. I really like this idea of kind of allowing them to decide sometimes what to do, or to be more spontaneous and do something fun or out off the beaten path. Like, something that I like to do is now I'm parking at one store, and I then, like, instead of like getting back in the car and drive, we go and walk to the next store. Like it's a good distance. And they're like, well, where are we going? It's just being spontaneous. And you could see like different things, like, what's that store? What's that store? They could start to see more things. I think you had a good idea there with the hiking through the woods. I think we did this a couple of weeks ago where we were on the main trail, and we got to like kind of a spur, and the spur looked not well kept up on that one. But we went through it because the plants were all around us, and you pulled out the Seek app, and all of a sudden the girls were like, what's that? What's that? What's that?
What's this?
And all of a sudden you're right. Like, we're in that time right now.
But yes, that is exactly how it went.
And it was this.
If you don't have the Seek app, you guys got to get it.
Yeah, it was a spontaneous thing that we started doing, and all of a sudden it got them really interested in like looking. Have we seen this plant? Have we seen this plant? Oh no. The younger girls, no. That was that plant we saw before.
Oh yeah. Now our younger daughter's like, that's a sword fern.
Yeah.
Did you know that that's a sword fern? Like, yes, I do now. And that's a huckleberry. So she's like, she remembers them better than I do. And you're right. That was such a fun experience.
Yeah, doing like spontaneous things. I think a lot of times because I'm so much of a prepper for the next day. I pretty much want to know what I'm doing that day.
I like the plans too.
I do feel like I'm losing some spontaneity there, right? Of just be like, hey, let's go do X, or whatever it is. Like forget about all this. Let's play this thing, or let's go do this thing, or allowing them to create that spontaneity, right? Because a lot of times I think they're just going with the flow. The river's flowing in one direction, and it's to Knowledge Town. But sometimes we need to get off on the bank and go do something else. I feel like sometimes we lose that spontaneity, and I think maybe even like artificially creating spontaneity to then cue the children to do the same thing.
Right. It feels spontaneous to them because
Yeah.
they didn't know you were thinking of it.
Yeah.
One of the things we've started to do recently is we've put games in the car. So when we go out to eat and we're waiting for our food to arrive, we'll pull out a different game. And of course, we are a big gamer family. We love games, but even simple card games, they've got math, they've got all kinds of stuff. And we've seen our younger daughter definitely accelerate in her game playing ability since we have started playing games in restaurants while we wait for our food.
Well, that's a great point, because a lot of times that waiting time is 5-10 minutes. It embraces that short time.
Yeah, you can't do a whole lot there, but we've started to play. There's different kind of micro games that they're in just tiny little boxes and have some really cool concepts. There's a push your luck one called Deep Sea Adventure. We've been or press your luck. We've been playing a lot.
I think we need to. I think we'll review it on YouTube here coming up.
It's a fun one.
It's a great game, and we've been playing a lot of it lately. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really fun, and so we can just pack it really easily. And so even if we're going to be out for the day walking around, we always have a little game in the backpack or whatever that we take with us, and that's been a really fun, just like little learning nugget moments that they weren't expecting, that we're actually seeing some real growth with counting and things with our youngest.
And kind of going with that spontaneity, I find a lot of times when we allow ourselves to have fun, kind of deviate from the plan, it does lower the pressure on that situation. Because maybe sometimes in that spontaneity, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's something different. And because it's different, I think they feel, oh, we're not doing all the workbooks, Dad. We're not doing all these other things. I'm happy to go in this direction for, today or whatever that might be. And it does create that kind of lower pressure environment. And because I know they're enjoying themselves and we can, put a little bit of learning in there, I don't feel, as a homeschool parent that I'm missing out on any opportunity. I think this is a good experience, or this is a fun thing to do, or, let's try a new restaurant, or let's go eat some unique food. Like tomorrow, we're in Mexico right now, studying Mexico for Around the World. And
that's right. You're going to pick up tamales. I was wondering what we were doing. I'm
going to deviate big time tomorrow for lunch. They're not getting the ham sandwich or the peanut butter and jelly, or right. This very narrow Rolodex of lunches and we're going to stop in at the place and pick up some tamales tomorrow, because we have a mission to eat Mexican food every single day for 14 straight days.
And darn it, we do love a mission.
And we do love a mission.
We're up to this challenge.
But those are the type of like spontaneity things that like kind of lower the pressure, make things more enjoyable. A little bit more fun.
It could even be the other week I randomly told the kids they had a couple of things they still needed to do for homeschool, and I was like, all right, everybody, shoes and socks, we're going on a picnic. And we just like grabbed a bag, threw everything in it, and walked up to the park. And we did our work really quickly, and they brought their dolls, and they just happily played for the next hour and loved it. And it was such an enriching experience. And then when we came home, I felt like everyone was more energized by having this experience. I think that's one of the great things about doing these little small activities, whether you're taking a break from your regularly scheduled program or you are purposely building in small activities every week. I kind of like the latter, really, which is, being semi-intentional about this spontaneity like you're talking about. Like there are some small things that we can do because it really seemed to energize them. And I loved that.
Well, and I think, doing these different things, because a lot of times when we're doing the same thing over and over, and human beings have this incredible ability to just adapt to the new. And a lot of times with our homeschool, we're kind of doing the same things over and over. I mean, obviously the content's the same, different, but a lot of times we just feel like we're just kind of like,
it's kind of like work.
Yeah. And by doing a little bit, by doing different things and being artificially having a spontaneous artificial moment, it can begin to build a little bit of confidence with the kids, because they are doing different things, and that the difference or the newness creates a little bit of like maybe a little psychological shock, but in a good way, because it's like, oh, this is something different. Like tonight we went to the girls' varsity basketball game. It was senior night tonight, and this was something that's like way out of the norm. We don't normally do this, and the girls were like going and getting popcorn at the stand, and they were going out with all the other girls on the thing. And it was such a wild, different experience. And they were kind of, we were a little free rangey with them. And as long as they stayed together and they had a good time. But again, it's building that confidence in an environment where it's loud and there's a game going on and
Right.
there's hundreds of people in the stands.
I
and
gave
all
our
that
older
stuff.
daughter the money to go
Yep,
get the
she had to go
snacks.
pay for it herself,
She had
yep.
to be able to read the board. She had to pay for it. She had to bring me back the change and tell. And I asked her how much everything cost. So she was able to go, okay, well, those Doritos were this much, and my Junior Mints were this much, and whatever. So all the things, right? It was a great experience for her. I agree with the confidence building, especially we've got one daughter, our younger, that could just. I mean, no fear. She'll dive into anything you give her. Yeah. Our older daughter is very risk averse. She's really hesitant. And especially if we present some kind of a big, like, okay, we're going to do this big thing. We're going to do this big project. That would just be really overwhelming for her. So I think taking things in kind of bite sizes, whether we've been doing this travel agent thing when we study different countries where she comes up with what our itinerary would be for our trip. And that's been really great because it's just not so big. You know, it's not like, okay, if we said to her, now these curriculums a lot of them recommend doing like a project that you put together week by week, but in the end you have this whole big book or whatever of, you know, that's just like overwhelming for her to even think about. So breaking things down into smaller pieces, even if it was part of what you had planned to do, I think there can be a lot of confidence building there, and it eases the anxiety about it.
Absolutely. And you know, doing all of these activities, I think leads into this last point, which is when you're thinking small and you're trying to adapt to these new experiences, whatever they might be, you know, whatever you choose to want to do with your kids, you can do this with every single subject. So if you're looking for spontaneity in, you know, reading, right? Hey, let's go to a used bookstore today and pick out a book, or go to the library and pick out a book. A lot of times we are checking all the books out.
Yeah, we put them on hold and we just kind of pick them up and go. It's like drive-through library.
Very rarely do we, very rarely do we go to the library and let them check out a book, right? Being having that spontaneity there is amazing. And you can do this with pretty much any one of your subjects, whether you're doing science, you could really embrace the local flora and fauna. If you're doing some type of, you know, weather study, if you're having some weird weather coming in for the day, or there's a fog bank coming in or something, go and experience that, or see the river when they're spawning the salmon and whatnot. And whatever the thing is happening, you can embrace it for that subject.
Yeah, you know, you can even, it's funny to think about not only the things that you're doing with your kids, but the things you're doing yourself. As many middle-aged women do, I find this is a trend. I think middle-aged men, they get into grilling, and you certainly have. Yep. And middle-aged women, we get into sourdough. I don't know why, but all my friends are doing sourdough, and now I too would like to do sourdough.
Tell your sourdough's name.
It's Sarah. Sarah's a sourdough starter, and everyone has. Sourdough has a name. It was funny. I was talking with a friend at Girl Scouts about this. And I was like, hey, my sourdough, I said, Sarah's struggling a little bit. She's like, well, we've had George in the family for a long time. Everyone gives their sourdough starter a name. So I think it's kind of fun. But
the girls are even.
The girls are so into this.
They're very caring.
They are very caring about Sarah. They take care of her with me every day. They help me. We've been talking all about the processes and how the natural yeast is working. And okay, we're in the capture stage now, and we're trying to get all the wild yeast and how this whole process is going to work. They have been absolutely fascinated with it. And I was doing this for me because I like sourdough bread, and I don't know, I just think that this was a fun hobby kind of thing to do. But now they're all into it, and they're really excited about it. So,
and you're building the starter. I mean, think about what you're going to be able to do once the starter is prepared.
That is the hope.
And then, you know, you'll be able to do with them, and taking them through that process, I think, is going to be, you know, we're a big cooking family. We're a big food family. And taking the girls through that process is going to be a very unique thing. And I think that's going to be very impactful for them because they're going to want to try different things with Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Because you're almost anthropomorphizing the thing. And it becomes, I think there's more of a connection to it, right? It's like our pets are part of our family, that type of thing. Having that type of connection, you're doing this little small thing that takes, you know, a couple minutes a day, and it's having a very impactful thing, and it's becoming something that you are able to teach to the girls. And then there's eventually going to be these knock-on projects that are going to come from it that I think is going to be very memorable for them.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. So, yeah, the whole point of this was just to remind you that even the little things can be great. Even if we have a couple of like science kit type things that do like 10 experiments in one or whatever. And sometimes that's fine, right? Grab one of those and do something that you weren't normally planning to do, or something that you're doing as a hobby, involve your kids, or take a walk outside, or go to that wacky museum around the corner that you've never been to, or just a million things.
Stargaze in the hot tub.
Yeah, go out and stargaze and talk. It was funny because we went out of the game tonight, and our little one was asking me about the stars.
Yeah.
Because it was nighttime, we got out of the game. And so, we had a kind of an impromptu discussion about that. And if we had come home, we could have done this. If we'd come home and said, okay, we're grabbing the telescope, let's go look at the stars, they would have been so tickled pink.
Yeah.
We had to come in here and record this podcast for you. So next time, but
Yeah, they're taking the learning away from our children.
yeah, just remember, small can be great. And if you want to approach things in a more unschooly type way, or, maybe you do want to plan them all, you can make a lot of small things add up into some great big things. So yeah, think small. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook, and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!